This is a speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe in the honor of Chanuka, the holiday of Chanuka. And next Monday night is going to be Chanuka. And this the Rebbe said in, let's see, where is this? 1952. Okay. So it goes like this. The mitzvah of Chanuka is, one second. The mitzvah of Hanukkah is, anzünden to light, licht, like candles. Wie soll schafft man licht? How is it that you make candles? How is it you make fire? How you make fire? Man nimmt boemel, you take oil, other holz or wood, undersgleichen or something similar. This means a gashmiistic azach, a physical thing. And men warmt das on, you warm it up. Bis es wird ois gashmi until it's no longer physical, and it starts to burn in dem ganzen room, and it illuminates the whole area where you're in, the room, whatever. The licht, the light which comes from it, was men sinned, the light, the candles which we lit in Chanuka, coming from the licht that comes from the light, they originated from the light, was men flecked sinden, which they lit in Beis Hamikdash in the Holy Temple. In Beis Hamikdash in the Holy Temple, that was part of the service. There was also these candelabra that had 7 stems. Flecked men, jede Nacht, every night, they would light candles. But in that site, in the time of the miracle of Hanukkah, there wasn't any clean, pure oil. There was a lot of oil, but there was no pure oil. So it's in to light the licht. As hat der Eibishter, so God, getan and he made a miracle. Und men hat gefunden, they found a bottle of oil. That was one miracle. Tahor, chasum b'chos mashal kohen gadol, and it was sealed with the seal of the kohen gadol. And this was the Greeks had not opened it up, because all they did was open up the bottles, and that made them impure. A kriegel, a bottle, rain a boimel of pure oil, far ziegelt mitten zin, it was sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, with the high priest's thing. 1 second, let's turn the page. Okay, you have to sort of twist your head a little bit to read this if you want to read it alone. Life is fraught with difficulties and dangers, but here we go. The boimel, the oil, was in pach, which was in that bottle. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Which was in the bottle. Is given genuga, was enough. Kium only for one day. Is geshen, but what happened was a miracle. Unes hat gebrannt 8 Tage, and the light lit 8 days. And there was 7 days more than it was supposed to. Some people ask a question, if so, the miracle wasn't 8 days. The miracle was only 7 days. They had enough for. So there's a lot of answers. This is a question which is a standard question for Chanuka, and there's a lot of answers that are given. One answer is that just the finding of the bottle was a miracle. Another answer is that after 8 days, they checked and they saw that none of the oil had burned. The whole thing was a miracle. Oh, there's another opinion that they only put 1/8 in every day, and to see what would happen. And sure enough, that 1/8 lasted for a full day. Because it was only enough to last for 1 day, so they put enough to last for 1/8 of a day. Okay, and it lasted the whole day. However, it was a miracle for 8 days. It lit for the 8 days. Notwithstanding of them, the fact was the licht from Hanukkah, the lights from Hanukkah come to the lights of the Beis Hamikdash. from deswegen, nevertheless, seien sie verandert, they are different in alte and ähnliche Sachen, in certain aspects. The lights of Chanuka are different from the lights of Pesach. Now, usually, when the rabbis make a decree, and it's based on something from the Torah, so they try to make it as similar to the Torah as possible. And here they made a decree based on the lights of the Beit HaMikdash, but for some reason it's not as similar as possible. There's some distinct differences, and we'll see what they are. Number one, in the Beit HaMikdash is Alamol Geven, the Zelber, Tzol Nicht. In the Holy Temple, they lit every night. They lit 7, same thing. Takegen, which is on Chanukah, no. The first night we light 1, second night 2, 3. Every night it changes. So that's one big difference. Another big difference. Beit HaMikdash, the Beit HaMikdash, flecht men an Sinden, the Lich, Tavkaben, by Teg. In the Holy Temple, they would light the candles in the daytime. That's the way it was in the Holy Temple. They would light in the daytime, and it would remain burning the whole night, because the service of God was always done, in the temple was always done in the day. You couldn't do anything in the night. Then see is Nor Gabem, a good licht, only then when the candle was burning on its own. I'm sorry. When it was already light outside. So they didn't really need it wasn't dark when they lit the candles in the Holy Temple. But Chanukah licht, the light of Chanukah, is you have to light it Nachdem vi dezun far gate. You have to light it after the sun sets. So in other words, the Holy Temple, the candles were lit in the Holy Temple, first of all, the same number every night, and secondly, they were lit in the daytime, right near the end of the day, but in the daytime. And in the in the lights of Hanukkah, we light after in the dark when it's dark. Gimel. Third thing, Neros HaMikdash, the lights of the Holy Temple, Zayin and Gavan were ein venik. They were inside. In the lights in the Holy Temple, they were inside the temple. When Neros Hanukkah, the nights of Hanukkah is mitzvah, there is a mitzvah to put them on your door that should shine out into the street. Number four, mitzvahs Neros Mishkan, the candles that were in the tabernacle and in the Holy Temple is given in a zeit, was in a time when the Jews were not found nit gefelt in Gashmis. There was no lacking physically, not lacking. They were ruling over their own country. They had their own temple, and they were autonomous. The Jews, especially is the zeit special in the zeit from the Mishkan, especially in the time when the Jews had the tabernacle in the desert. As Had Yidden Gahad, all of us the daven, they had everything they needed. They weren't lacking anything. Asa and food, Haben Zeh Gahad from Mina Shemayim, the food they got as manna from heaven. Wasser, water, came from the rock. It's called the well of Miriam that came from the rock that followed them everywhere. Even their garments, said Midgavax, the garments grew with them, Midzeh with them. Und given ständig rain, and they were always clean. So they weren't lacking anything. And also the enemies, they had no bother from enemies in the desert because they were surrounded by these clouds that protected them from everything. Azoi is oich the mitzvah. That's also the mitzvah of Nerot HaMikdash. The same thing is, as it was, that was what in the tabernacle, and so it was also, and when the Jews entered Israel and they built the Holy Temple, it was also Gegevin Gaborim B'Yamei Shlomo. When there was King Solomon, he built the temple. Was is given Shalom in Zayin Tait, where there was total peace in his time. As Kainer had nid Milchama Gat, no one made war with the Jews. Adarabah, exactly the opposite. Men had noch they getzalt mas. It says that the non-Jews, they paid taxes to the Jews, which is given each tax given, and the Jews were in tremendous abundance. Everybody had his own vineyard and his own date tree and etc. Temzelber is oich ruchnis. The same thing as in spiritual. Because so what is he saying? In the lights of the Holy Temple, First of all, it was the same number every night. Number two, it was lit in the daytime. Number two, it was lit in the daytime. Number three, it was inside in the holy temple. It was inside, and also it was inside in a pure place in the inside. And the fourth is that it was lit in a time when there was peace, and the Jews were in a good situation, which is not the case. The lights of Chanuka, even the lights of Chanuka are supposed to be to remind us of the lights of the temple, but we see that they're for some reason they're different, and we'll find out what that reason is. Number one, it's a different number every night. Number two, it's you light it in the nighttime, not in the daytime. Number three, you light them outside. There's a commandment to light the candles outside. According to Kabbalah, some people don't. Anyway, the fact is there's a commandment. There's a point to light the candles of Hanukkah outside. And in the lights of the Holy Temple, you never light them outside. It always has to be in its place. And number four, of course, the Jews in the time of the when the Hanukkah candles, the Jews were defeated, right? They weren't in a time of peace and time of the same thing as spiritually. Because as men had nit kan gashmis to dagos, if you don't have any physical worries or problems, as git menzich and ganzi, then you can devote yourself totally to Torah and the commandments. Jewish things, the kegen, but neros Chanukah, the lights of Chanukah, Zion and Verbunden, they are connected to a time which is the land of Israel was unter Memshalas Yavin. It was under the Greeks. And the Yiddish army and the Jewish army, power of defense, whatever, was very, very swift, very, very weak, very, very weak, in both in quantity and in quality. Also in spiritual. There's nit given kind shemen tahor. There was no pure oil. It says oif not in even for one night. There was no pure oil. It was a big miracle. They found one bottle of pure oil. Okay. So we have all these differences then between the lights of Hanukkah and the lights of the Holy Temple. All these differences, Zayin and Verbunden, they're connected one to the other. Shas is good. And Gashmi is when it's good for the Jews. Physically, so they're off, therefore automatically. Ruchnis is also good for them spiritually. Right? When it's good for them, the Jews, and physical, they got no worries, so therefore they can devote themselves to Jewish things. But when a Jew, Torah commandments, when a Jew had nit mit an offener hand und mit a brighter hand, or if inyanim ruchnim, but when a Jew I'm sorry, I just want to say, oh, this is a nit. Give me. Oh, I see. What a Jew has, so he'll give his money. When a Jew has, he'll give to charity with an open hand. Darfman nit haben kein milchama. You don't have to have a war and self-sacrifice. When you've got plenty, you don't have to have, in order to devote yourself to holy things, you don't have to have any self-sacrifice. Done is ganug, then it's enough. As you had the talk that every day, then you can have do the same things the day before. You don't have to add on anything. So that's the reason why in the time of the temple, the number of lights was always the same, was always 7. But in the time why? Because everything was good. There was no difficulties. You didn't have to increase anything. You just keep holy like you were. Be a good person. But when there's difficulties and it's dark, you can't just maintain the same place, the same level. You always have to increase. And that's why the lights of Hanukkah are increasing, because they were in the time when it was darkness. Also, when everything is good, you don't have to make any special effort to light up the streets. The streets are already lit. Namely, the streets means the world. Is nit finster, because the world is not really dark. The menorah had burnt in Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, in the time when there was a holy temple, so the menorah, it illuminated the holy temple. So therefore, it was light automatically it was light in the street. It was good. You were Jewish. Everybody felt good. That was in the time of the temple, which is not the case in Chanuka. What happened in Chanuka? 1 minute. Try it again. But in the zeit from Ishver, when is difficult, a difficult situation, a zeit from Milchama, time for war, not only just with war with the Greeks, also with the Yidden, also with the Jews that sided with the Greeks. According to most of it, the Rebbe has a speech about it where he shows that it seems that 90%, 80, 99% of the Jews in the time of Chanuka, they were on the Greek side. They didn't want to make war against the Greeks. They agreed with the Greeks. The Greeks brought a welcome recess from being a servant of God. Now they could just do whatever they wanted to. But Zionists, so those remaining Jews that really were loyal to God, so they had to make a war. I mean, so that they themselves didn't fall into this. So, what happened to my picture? 1 second, my picture. Gotta get my picture up here. There we go. Oh. But Zion, sorry. Right, so they had to make a war not only against the Greeks, but also against the, how do you say, Greekized, what's the word? Hellenized Jews. Because as Zayin and Gavan, as Zoin and Yidden, there were certain Jews, was haben nit gehalt from Beit HaMikdash. There were certain Jews that they didn't hold with this whole thing about the Holy Temple. Didn't gehalten from Selbstständigkeit und Gewalt, und Gewalt assimilation. Okay, they didn't hold with independence, that the Jews are different, and they wanted to assimilate with the Greeks. In such a difficult situation, so God, He gave the commandment from the Eretz Chanuka. In a site, in such a time, demanded what's called self-sacrifice. And the Greeks offered such a beautiful package for life but it just didn't include Judaism, doing what God wanted. But doing what God wants is hard. You have to sometimes go against what you want. So now the Jews had to be convinced, right? We're not going and trying to kill all the Jews that were not loyal to the cause. We have to convince them that they should change themselves, right? If it was a matter of just, killing them, so it would be a lot easier, but that's certainly not the way of Judaism. Everybody has to decide on their own to serve the creator of the universe. And that was pretty difficult because they had all these pleasures that were telling them the opposite. And on in such a time, is venik, it's not sufficient as men, zolmach and lichtig, that you can make light only by yourself in the house. Because by gas in the dark, in the street, it's dark. When the finsternis, in other words, the world is dark. And the darkness from the street can come in also into your house. Darvmen legen, you have to put a special effort of belichten the gas to light up not just yourself. You can't just hold your ground. You have to make an effort to illuminate also the street. Men sind Chanuka licht. You can light Chanuka candles. Then is finster, and you have to light. That's why we light the candles not only out in the street, but also we light it after the sun sets. Un leben tier near the door. In other words, on the outside, in order that it can light up the world. In other words, the lights of Hanukkah are there to illuminate the darkness of the world. And in the time of the Holy Temple, there wasn't that spiritual darkness. As is Vainik, it's not sufficient. Was ervet sin that you can light candles just for yourself alone. By zich, or if put them on your table, or the table where you eat. Or Schreibtisch, or on the table where you write things, you do your learning. When Effen on the tier, and then you open up the door so that the light can shine out on the street. No, you should put the light in such a way that it shines out automatically onto the street. You have to put an effort to light up the world as well. Also, in Izvenik, it's not sufficient that so licht the same number to do the same number of lights every night. Because men can zich nit banuganim, because you cannot suffice with with what you did yesterday. With was is nit gevoren nidricher. You can't just say, okay, at least I didn't fall down. I'll stay in the same place. What I did yesterday, I'll do today. But I see other people are descending. At least I'm holding. No, you can't do that. You can't say that it's sufficient just that I should not be as bad as somebody else. You have to be better yourself, and you have to try to have an influence on that other person that he also should be better. You can't stay in the same place as you were the day before. Norm and Darf, again, als hecher and hecher, you always have to go higher and higher. The Sachakol, what's the conclusion from all this? And at sight and a time when is finsternia. Anyway, when it's dark, when the darkness is great, grois, as darvmen nit nispal, don't be afraid or affected negatively by the darkness in the world. from the darkness, which is in the street, nor Ara, exactly the opposite. Men darvken, you have to go with a Mesiras Nefesh, with self-sacrifice, balichten the gas, to illuminate the street. When jeder tag, on every day, zugeben mehr and mehr licht, add more and more light. Bis men vet, until you are bringing noch shemen tahor, until you can find pure light, reina und klare boimel, pure light to illuminate the whole entire world. And God willing, we'll finish this next week. Finish this tomorrow. Tomorrow we will learn. Yes, we definitely will learn Friday morning, and we'll try to finish the Devar Malchut that we were learning today. We'll try to finish the Devar Malchut, and this, God willing, will finish on Sunday. Okay, have a good day with Moshiach now, and hope to see you all tomorrow morning, 8:15. Shalom uvracha. 8:15 Israeli time.